was this ever the case where the Prophet so he you use the word entertain more than one wife um within the same day? Not just went to go visit them, but he had like sexual intercourse with them within the same day.
That's mentioned, for sure. That's mentioned. Mawjood. You have that, yes. Hadiths on that. With regards to one ghusl or multiple ghusls. Sharia.
Sallallahu alaikum.
Wa iyyakum.
So what about if a man has work that day? If he has two wives, so he works one day he might have no work, so how will he spend time with them?
As we said, the night and the day. So for argument's sake, one wife he sees when he's off, days off. And one wife he sees when he's working. Then they have to navigate through that. Whether they interchange weeks, this week you're working, she gets the days off, next week, vice versa. Or whether one is happy and pleased with that. It's okay. You can work, no problem. You come home to me, well, that's. This one, you have days off, etc. But I will say this, and that is, in most cases, a man who's living a healthy life as a Muslim man, even as a non-Muslim, in reality, for real, you really don't have a day off. In reality. What you can't do when you're working, you're catching up on the weekends. Whether it's family time, taking this, buying this, doing that, So for real, the man is always supposed to be busy. He's never ever supposed to just be, relaxing all day, every day, on the sofa all day, every day. And if he is, something's wrong. But for argument's sake, working 8 hours, 10 hours isn't the same as you going here, going shopping. You're actually working. So if one wife is displeased with that, why do I get the days in which you're always working and tired and exhausted? Then mix it up. And obviously, they have to come to whatever agreement they can come to. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Fadda Amjad.
Sheikh, this is a serious, mature question. It might come off as inappropriate.
Well, it's not the first time we've been asked those type of questions. I've taken a lot of heat for answering them, speaking on them. People have attacked me, made all types of crazy videos about me, And I remember one time, it's a shout out to my peeps in Toronto, north of the border, Sheikh Hassan at Abu Huraira. One day we were in Canada. It was freezing cold that night. I remember. We went to a halal steakhouse. So we're sitting at the table. We're about to order our food. And the imam at the masjid who was the imam at the current time, it was him and it was a couple of other brothers. So they started roasting me, basically. Sheikh Mufti, bananas, like, you one of us, like, let us, roast you a little bit. So they start talking about one of the Mufti Q&A answers that I gave about some real mature type of stuff, graphic type stuff, in which I felt that the answer was appropriate based off of the nature of the question. What's important is, Sheikh Hassan there, he said something to me. He said, forget the fact that they asked you that crazy question. Forget the fact that you answered that crazy question, blah, 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 blah. You took the gloves off. He says, but you kept a straight face the whole time. And everybody started laughing. They said, how in the world did you keep a straight face with any? We would have laughed, we would have smirked, we'd have been like, yo, that's crazy. Da, da, da. Yo, that's crazy. Da, da, da. He said, but you kept a what? You kept a poker face the whole time. Right? So hopefully tonight, Ta'ala, with this question, we can keep our what? Hopefully. Inshallah. Bismillah.
So previously you mentioned a man is not allowed to have intercourse with his wives at the same time because they see each other's aura.
Okay.
Some scholars permitted oral sex. So what if they are fully covered, they don't see each other's aura, and both are providing him with oral sex at the same time?
Straight face, huh? Inshallah. What's important is, at the end of the day, for argument's sake, However that is even possible. One, all right, right. So bismillah. And inshallah we're all mature here, like Brother Amjad mentioned. So one ruling is oral sex. Is oral sex halal or haram or makruh? We've explained that before. We've mentioned what the scholars of Islam say about that in detail before. So for argument's sake, this man, this woman, they're of the opinion that the oral sex is lawful. That it's not haram, it's not makruh. All right, tayyib. Now he has two wives. Both wives are doing that. They don't look at the woman's aura. Plausible question, i.e. they're only looking at the man's aura. They're covered. Is that lawful? Based off of what you mentioned, that a man cannot have sex with multiple wives at the same time because it would lead to many prohibited things, such as looking at each other's aura, touching each other's aura, lesbianism, so on, so on, so on, and so forth. So for argument's sake, two women, one man, one aura, they're totally covered. Is that lawful? If that was the only reason why that's prohibited, for argument's sake, that would be what? Lawful. They're not looking at each other's aura, they're not touching each other's aura, for argument's sake. But there are other problems, and that is opening up the doorway to vice. The vice of a slippery slope. Two women, same time, I'm receiving pleasure from both of my wives. It's only a step away from, well, you know what, if you guys can do this together at the same time on me, then why not try this? And, oh, such and such, and you do this with such and such. And it can lead to that. So for argument's sake, in theory, I say, in theory, if that's the illat al-tahrim, if that's the wisdom behind the prohibition, like intoxication, khamr, no alcohol in it, then it will be lawful to drink. If that's the only reason, then you have your answer. And if that wasn't the case, then obviously that is going to open up, in my humble opinion, a doorway to many, many other problems. And for argument's sake, if it doesn't open that doorway, and it's shut and closed just like that, then you would have your what? Your answer based off of those usul. Clear or not? And I don't think that's a bad question. Even if it was just a hypothetical, theoretical question, he's still thinking. That's a critical question. Because you mentioned this. All right, so now that doesn't exist. Jazakallahu khairan. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Idris.
So 2 weeks ago I asked a question about backbiting, and you mentioned if it takes place in public, then it's essentially kind of fair game to speak on it if it's done in the public eye. My question is more so what's considered public. For example, if something takes place at home, family.
With regards to backbiting, someone who makes a public sin, public disobedience. What constitutes quote unquote public? Just as it says, a sin that is done in front of people without the shyness or shame or fear. Whatever the reason, whatever the person's excuse is, he feels or she feels that it's something that's public versus something that a person does behind closed doors. So for example, a woman, she's shaving her eyebrows. And the woman, she's of the opinion that it's haram to shave the eyebrows. It's haram to trim up the eyebrows, right? So she's outside in public with her eyebrows arched. Not bleached, but clearly shaven and arched. Publicly flaunting it in front of the people. Versus a sister who arches her eyebrows, but she wears a khimar low. And no one sees her arches except inside of the house with her khimar off. So for argument's sake, no doubt, she's doing it in public. Sister says, oh, Sister Fulana, she shaves her eyebrows. You see such and such. It's public sin. Versus the woman who does it behind closed doors, regardless of her reason, shame, shy, hypocrisy, al-muhim. It is in public. You find out about it, and then you start talking about it and mentioning it to other people. Understand? And the same applies to drinking alcohol. You see me drinking some alcohol, it's not the same as I thought the door was locked and you walked in. Oh, subhanAllah. Damn, Mofi, a bottle of Hennessy? What's going on with that, right? And then you start talking about me behind my back. I did that in the confidence of my own house. but I made a mistake. The door was unlocked. I thought it was locked. You came in, you thought you heard me say come in, and the bottle, I'm putting it up. Versus me just walking down the street, drinking it. This wine is delicious. It's vintage. Big difference between the two. Wallahu alam. Wa yakum. Hamza.
What is your daily schedule like?
Oh man. My daily schedule like. I can't tell you that. And that is because if I told you that, you wouldn't want to study with me. If you knew about my shortcomings and my flaws and my laziness. Next question.
Sorry. With how people are today and the jealousy goes on between, and then starting out with one and the second wife. What do you think would be the best time, say if someone is married, to bring up they want to have a second wife? In the khifqa? Before
Understood.
marrying the first?
Clear.
I'm so excited.
Hello, Team Sajid. Jazakallah khairan. Well, the question like this deserves, it needs a dynamic answer. When is the best time to bring it up to your wife or potential wife that you want to be a polygamous man? Sometimes it's best to be upfront. That way, whatever happens in the future, you say, I made it clear to you. I asked you. You said it was okay, but I love you more and I'm more attached. Look, hey, I got a big heart. I have enough love to what? Go around. It's enough of me for everybody, right? Or a person could possibly say, no, it's best not to bring it up. Get your, your feet planted firmly first and foremost. Establish a marriage first. Or some may have, they may say, look, once you got her, class, you can do what you want. She's yours. She, whatever the case may be. So sometimes it's best to be upfront, to be public, to be blunt. Yes, there's no doubt about that. And we live in a culture in which being blunt is considered to be rude, or it's considered to be disrespectful. Sometimes being blunt is bad, but sometimes being blunt is what's needed. But our culture is a culture of just so much hypocrisy in the world today. People smile in your face, they laugh, hayakallah, and they hate you deep down inside. Instead of saying, what do you want? How can I help you? How you doing? Tafaddal, come in my house. Oh, really, Sheikh? Then you say, oh, no, I can't host you. But you just said come in your house. So we live in that type of culture. So sometimes being blunt, being upfront is the best way to go. And if she can't accept that, then, peace. Right? As they say, peace. All right, and what? The Middle East, rain and what? Rain in Spain. See you later. Bye. All right? But obviously the man, he has to be of a certain, cut to even speak like that. Most of us are scared. Period. Unfortunately. So, if a woman is staunch and stern, no second wife, period, then you need to say that up front. As far as if he's like most women, who wants a co-wife? I want to have you all to myself. I'm jealous, I'm this, I'm that, I'm not strong enough. That's a different story. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Well, yeah, cool. There, as I said to Amjad and the other brothers, Sage, that polygamy in Islam, as I said, isn't an isolated issue, but it's in need of other elements. And from that is manhood, courage, honesty. From that is a strong work ethic, working, paying bills. There are many things needed. Physical fitness, health. There are many things needed. It's not just the fact that I just have a second wife. It isn't on an island by itself. You understand? There are other things that are la bud minha. It's a must. If you don't even have this ingredient, then such and such. And the same applies to the woman as well. Wallahu alam. Naam akhi.
I have a two-parter. One is if you marry more than one wife, like the Prophet did, can you show favoritism to a particular race other than your own of that wife? Because I believe one of the Prophet's wives was Jewish heritage, I think. So is there favoritism between the races if you do that? That's
Understood. Well, with regards to showing favoritism or an inclination to one race in polygamy, that's a big problem, just talking about race. People lying, people being hypocritical, people not keeping it real. At the end of the day, to keep things summarized, you can pick the wife that you want. If you choose to marry a woman of this race and that's what you like, what's the problem? Many people say, oh no, you only like this type of woman because of such and such, and you want to be, this is what I like. Cup of tea, right? You say, I don't want milk in my tea. I don't want sugar in my tea. I don't drink black tea. I only drink green tea. I don't like cold tea. That's your preference. There's no sin in that. Yeah.
Part two is, what if you married two twin sisters? Is that okay?
No, you cannot be married to a woman and her sister at the same time. Wallahu alam. Fadal.
There's a person with it's a traveler, as he has the option to pray Jannah. Does he need to establish his intention for Taqdim?
Repeat the question, please.
For a traveler to join the salawat, the Isha,
Okay.
does he have to establish his intention to pray Taqdim or Taqdim?
Not necessarily, no. Laysa shartan. Let's say you have the intention of making dhuhr, and then you think about it, you find out that the train is going to be such, you say, let me combine. As long as it's done within a reasonable period of time. It can't be 5 minutes, 10 minutes later. You understand? Hakada. Wallahu alam. From online.
I am connected in New York. Should I wait until things die down a little before I send donation to Syria and Turkey?
Do what your heart tells you to do, inshallah. If you want to give sadaqah, and you try your best to send it in a safe manner, you send it. Bidnillah. And even if something is done or mismanaged the wrong way, that's not necessarily your responsibility. And with that being said, we continue to pray for our brothers and our sisters in Turkey and Syria. The Muslims, we want good for all of humanity, of course, but we make dua for Muslims who lost their lives, lost their property, their properties, Muslims who are injured and hurt in that horrible earthquake. May Allah make it easy for those brothers and sisters. And may Allah allow us to take the necessary lessons from that. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to remove the filth of Jahiliyyah from our hearts. You know, with regards to the Muslims, us, we pick and choose which, donations and charities we want to be a part of. And I'm going to say it openly, whether you like it or not. Different Muslims, Syria, raise money. It's a humanitarian crisis. Yemen, nothing. Or Yemen, Syria, countries in Africa, Muslims dying, being kidnapped, they want what? Nothing. All right? Afghanistan, here, Palestine, we can't pick and choose which oppressed Muslims we want to make dua for, or qunut, witr, etc., the nazila. We can't pick and choose which of the ummah, which part of the ummah's blood is sacred. And, it's very unfortunate. And whether it's race or association or whatever country, our country says it's okay, they're good guys. These are the terrorists here, these are the bad guys there, these are the insurgents, that is very unfortunate. And if you just sit and you look at all of the different wars, the earthquakes, the famine, all of the different problems in the Ummah today, the Civil War, you'll find most of us picking and choosing. And you'll find people only focusing on one cause. That's it. These are the only needy, hungry, starving Muslims. Nowhere else in the whole world. Rather, you'll find people saying all types of horrible, terrible things. Would you like to raise money for what's going on in Botswana or those people, Ooh. But here, these people, they're noble. They deserve the charity, right? It's the racism. May Allah help us all.
MA Hyderabad, India is our free will.
Like I said, the association, Ta'ifiyya, etc. Lil Asaf. Fadda.
Is our free will autonomous?
Read the initials, please.
MA Hyderabad, India.
The question from our brother or sister in Hyderabad, India, which is reoccurring concerning free will. And is a slave forced into his actions or so on and so on and so forth. The reason why we're not answering this question or anything like this is because it's clearly based off of wiswas. And the more you feed the wiswas, the stronger the wiswas grows. It's just that simple. Allah wills, and nothing can overtop Allah's will. The human being has a will, and his job to want, to like, to hate, to try, to not to try, and what Allah wills is going to take place. It's that simple. You wake up in the morning, you know what's right, you try your best, you seek Allah's help in performing what's right. If you can't do it, wasn't meant to be. If you fall into a sin, you make tawbah, so on and so forth, you move forward, you know that that sin was meant to be. And it's just that simple. Wallahu alam.
AF Minneapolis, MN. What should one memorize before Al-Ajurumiyya? Ajurumiyya.
What's important is, Al-Jurumiyya is a book to be memorized for certain people. It's a book for the Muqaddimah fi Nahu, but not for someone learning Arabic as a second language. Al-Jurumiyya is a book that you're going to memorize after you've laid down the foundations and the principles. Al-Jurumiyya is a book written for someone who already speaks Arabic. Just like this type of grammar is someone who's an English-speaking person and then he learns a professional, collegiate level of grammar. Not someone who comes from one country learning English. He's not going to study this book and that book in the beginning. Wallahu alam.
AL from Leeds, UK. Many years ago, I robbed and stuck up drug dealers, scammers, and all these of the earth people. I used to tell myself I was crediting society and the money was better with me. I used the money for good, took care of family, etc. I regret now living off that money. Will Allah forgive me? And will there be no blessing in my life even after I repented?
With regards to robbing drug dealers, scammers, vagabonds of society, quote unquote, right? Etc., Robin Hood, etc. Now the person feels bad, he has regret, etc. The question: if you did wrong, if you feel that you did wrong, you make tawbah and you move forward. Period on the sentence. Done. You have regret, you make tawbah, you move forward. All right? It's just that simple. As far as what's the ruling on robbing a drug dealer or a crook or a scammer, taking their money, giving it to the poor, Robin Hood. MashaAllah. What can I say? Right? A person says the money is better with me or with someone else than them. That may be what? May be the case. I'm not saying go out on the streets and just rob somebody. I'm not saying become a vigilante. I'm not saying that. But at the same time, if a Muslim honestly, sincerely feels that there's an issue of taking the law into his hands and giving it, and then that's between him and his Lord, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what's important is if you're going to be Robin Hood, then just make sure that you're an honest Robin Hood.
Muslim style.
Make sure you don't go corrupt. It's easy to start off as a vigilante fighting crime, and then the next thing you know, you turn into what you sought and swore to destroy. Or the next thing you know, you come across a really big scammer or really big drug lord that you extorted, And next thing you know, you have all of that money. And the money feels good, smells good. Money smells good, it feels good, it looks good. And that money becomes a fitna for you. And instead of giving all of it to the orphans, dropping it off on their doorsteps at nighttime, vanishing in the dark, right? You now only give, I got to get my car renewed. I got to do this. I have to fix this. I have to buy new this. And the next thing you know, it's a problem. It's a fitna. So if you're going to be Robin Hood, just make sure that you're what? A straight up Robin Hood. Wallahu alam.
MA Hyderabad, India. I can't afford your course on Tawheed al-Ibadah. Can you tell me the strongest argument for saying that dua to the dead is shirk and not just haram?
I cannot afford your class on Tawheed al-Ibadah. Can you explain the strongest proof or argument that making dua to the dead isn't shirk, but it's just haram? Well, Jazakallah khairan, alhamdulillah, there are thousands, without any exaggeration, thousands of free videos on HadithDisciple and Mufti Q&A, literally, thousands. You can have a marathon, literally watch a new video for maybe how many years? How many? If it's 365 days in the Gregorian calendar.
3-4 years.
10 years.
Easily. and watch a new video every day. For what? For free. Okay? So let's not get things twisted with regards to a course. If you can't afford the course, by no means does it mean that the information isn't what? Available for free. That's first and foremost. Why are the courses exclusive? Why are certain courses you have to pay for? There are reasons behind that. What's important is, what is the strongest proof that making dua to the dead is not shirk and it's just haram? Let's not get caught up in controversy or he say or this and that. Let's just use basic common sense. Basic common sense. What does that lead to? Calling upon the dead is just haram. It's not shirk. Okay, what will happen to Islam? What will happen to the deen of Islam? What will happen to the tawheed if we open up that door? Make dua to the dead, it's haram, but it isn't shirk. They can come from the dead, they can help you out, they can hear you, they have a status with Allah, it's not shirk, etc., etc., etc. Use your common sense. Wallahu alam.
PC Berlin, Germany. How do I ask Allah for an honorable martyr's death? I want a special death so Allah raises my rank in the akhirah.
The question is coming from Berlin, Germany, with regards to how do I ask Allah for sincere martyrdom? I want an honorable death, a dignified death, etc., etc., etc. My advice to you, and peace and blessings to all disciples in Germany and in Berlin, my advice to you is be honest with Allah, be truthful. If you want to die on the battlefield fighting the cause of Allah, just be truthful. And you never know what Allah has in store for you. But if you're not truthful, if you're untruthful, if you really aren't willing to make those sacrifices, then that's a different story. What's important is how you die is in the hands of Allah. Never die unless you're in a state of Islam, the Quran tells us. Whether it's on the battlefield, whether Allah chooses for you to die in your bed, whether Allah chooses you to die in your car, whatever the case, just فَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا stay in a state of Islam all of the time. And try your best to be in a heightened sense of spirituality and awareness, doing the best, seeking the best, being very stingy with your time, and putting yourself in the chance or the opportunity. Nothing is by chance to Allah, we know that. We don't know, it's a chance for us, of being in that scenario. Whether it's on the battlefield or other than that. So have taqwa of Allah all of the time. Try to do your best all of the time. And if you want to die as a martyr in the cause of Allah, I salute you. I congratulate you. I envy you. And inshallah ta'ala, if that's what's meant to be, if that's your destiny, and you're honest, that's what will take place. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. But be mindful of what you say and what you ask for. Because the opportunity may come, and you may not have whatever you need. So if that's what you want to do, you want to be a martyr, you want to be a warrior in the cause of Allah, I congratulate you. And there is no doubt, that is one of, if not the best way to die in Islam. On the battlefield, having your blood spilled. Sincerely fighting for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah help us all. May Allah help the Muslims. May Allah help the world today and the state of affairs that we are in with regards to fighting in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel.
SC Jamaica Queens. If someone starts Maghrib Salah and on the second rak'ah gives salam by accident but immediately realizes, can they continue and do sujood al-sahwi, or have they already left the salah?
Personal salams are by accident. Not only can they continue, they must continue. As soon as you remember, you stand up, you make your additional raka'at, you make it tashahhud like nothing happened, you salam out, then you do the sajda to sahwi. Wallahu alam.
MA Bronx, New York. Do I have to wait exactly a year to pay my zakat that's in my savings, or it don't have to be a year?
Some scholars allow the hastening or the expediting of one's zakat. Some scholars allow that, especially if there's a need, if there's a hajjah. And instead of just giving charity, I want to kill two birds with one stone. I can pay my zakat and also fill the need. Some scholars have allowed that. Wallahu alam.
MS Dallas, Texas. Is sunnah before or after the adhan has been made?
Depends on the adhan. If the adhan is made on time, you shouldn't wait until the adhan is finished. If the adhan is late, you make the sunnahs when it's time. Wallahu alam.
YOGTA Canada, Assalamu alaikum. How can an individual contribute to helping the ummah long term I know dua and donating, but what are other steps we can take?
Helping the ummah long term, get in where you fit in. Look at your skills. What do you have? What are you good at? What are you strong in? What's needed? What's available? What's lacking? Whack at that. Wallahu alam. Don't overthink it.
M. Salah, Kuwait. When will be the next meetup with Sheikh Uthman ibn Farouk? It will be fire with you both.
Jazakallah khairan. Next question.
Bronx, TA. What is the status of hadith about giving adhan in newborn's ear? Can it be acted upon even though it has been shown to be weak?
Right. Scholars of hadith, they differ on those hadiths. Many say that there's a hadith or a hasan, that they are acceptable. And others conclude that they're weak, if not extremely weak, and they cannot be relied upon, period. At the end of the day, it is consensus to all of the scholars of Islam, the tremendous virtue of the adhan, and how the adhan banishes shaitan. As the authentic hadith in the Sahih clearly states, when the adhan is made, the shaitan runs away. وَلَهُ دُرَاتٌ حَتَى لَا يَسْمَعَ تَأْذِينَ. The shaitan farts. He has flatulence. That way he won't hear the dhikr of Allah. He won't hear the adhan. So the shaitan hates the adhan. He hates the call to prayer. So every scholar will agree is that the adhan is a means of dhikr. And that the adhan is a means of tard shaitan. Banishing and kicking the shaitan. That's ijma. Now, is that strong enough to say that it is now recommended to make the adhan in the child's ear? Maybe, maybe not. Potato, potato. But for sure, in theory, the concept of the first thing the child hears, or from the very first things, is the dhikr of Allah in his ears. That has to mean what? Something. Like they say with regards to skin. The father bearing the child with his bare chest. The mother feeding the child in the hospital or at home, wherever you have the baby. And that's the very first thing. The tahniq, etc., etc., etc. So it has some meaning to it. But does that mean that we now take it upon ourselves to make the adhan, make the iqama in the newborn's ear, in the right ear and the left ear based off of a hadith that you consider weak? What's important is that as a mahallu khilaf bayna ahl al-ilm, if you do it, فَبِهَا وَنِعْمَتْ, and if you don't do it, then it's not necessarily mandatory, even if the hadith is authentic. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
N.A. from Orange County, CA. Is it haram to work as a insurance defense lawyer?
Al-Muhim. The problems with insurance are well known. Problems with the law and the court system, well known. The need and the necessity of lawyers, well known. The need and the necessity of insurance is also well known. So between that boulder and that rock, that hard place and that rock, you have to what? Wiggle your way through. Everyone understand this? Insurance, I can't say all insurance is haram. That's incorrect. That's inaccurate. But the well-known mashakil, problems with insurance, this type of insurance for sure is haram, etc., etc. It's known. But at the same time, we all live in a society in which insurance is an absolute must. And which having a lawyer sometimes is a what? Absolute must. So no Muslims can be lawyers, no Muslims can own insurance companies, etc. So that makes us 101% reliant and dependent upon the faithless kuffar who have no rules, no fear, no consciousness of Allah. Mafsada. Wallahu alam.
M.A. Minneapolis. MN. Am I obligated to share therein? I've learned through HD and other channels, books, etc.
We mentioned that in 40 Hadith on seeking knowledge, the obligation of spreading beneficial knowledge.
AR Cairo, Egypt. What's the ruling on right-hand possessions?
Next question.
UH Long Island, New York. Salam. Okay. Can you advise me on how to deal with the people that blind follow madhabs? How do we reconcile Sahih Hadith and madhab? May Allah bless you.
Give advice to the Muslims. Bottom line. Don't fight with the Muslims. Do not argue with the Muslims. And do not practice fanaticism and bigotry. Give them nasiha. To read the small summarized books of hadith. Give them advice to make dua for the imams. Give them advice with regards to learning the meaning of Muhammad Rasulullah, what it means to be a Muslim, what it means to have the Messenger of Allah at the top of the list of people who you follow, etc., etc., etc. Give dua, make dua for them, give advice to them. Do not fight, do not argue, and do not discuss technical issues with the 9-to-5 layman Muslim in that type of manner. Wallahu a'lam.
GTA Canada, YO, how can a layman identify situations where we can fight in the way of Allah when scholars contradict each other and matters are confusing?
The Prophet ﷺ, with regards to how can a layman Muslim navigate through the different fatwas and rulings of different scholars with regards to fighting in Allah's cause. I want to fight in Allah's cause, etc., etc. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that no matter what happens, there will be a group from my ummah that is upon the truth, that is victorious, that is supported and aided until the end of time. So no matter what this scholar is saying in this country here, there's always going to be at least one that's going to tell you the raw truth. You follow, you take that, and you act accordingly. Wallahu alam. Don't worry about this one and that one. This scholar, this country, you don't have to worry about none of that stuff. If you see the truth, you believe it to be the truth, you have the sincerity in your heart, Bismillah. It's just that simple. Wallahu alam.
YR Lancaster PA, Assalamu alaikum Shaykh. Which way of saying that the tashahhud is more correct or appropriate in regard to salam upon the Nabi?
Me personally, I would say, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu. That's what I would say. Some scholars say that was only for the Prophet's time. After the Prophet's death, we say Assalamu ala nabi. In two different views. And there are proofs and evidences for both. What's important is Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, his tashahhud that he said on the minbar in front of the Sahaba after the Prophet's death was Assalamu alayka. Wallahu alam.
MSI San Diego CA, how to get over mommy's daddy's boy syndrome and become independent as a young adult male who wants to be a man, how to develop reliance on and fear of Allah alone.
How to break the mommy's boy, daddy's girl, or whatever the case may be, syndrome, and how to put your trust and your reliance on Allah. First and foremost, tawakkul is of two types. There's a mandatory tawakkul that every Muslim must have, and then there is a recommended type or recommended levels of tawakkul. So every Muslim must have the base level of tawakkul, period. Once you have that, if you want to be a mama's boy or daddy's girl, there's nothing wrong with it. You can be a grown man, you can work, you can have this, and you can still be a mama's boy. There's nothing wrong with that. Rather, being a mama's boy, if your mother has that type of relationship with you, that may be a type of birrul walidain. A means of pleasing your mother and making her happy. You're big, strong man, you're busy, you have a wife, you this and that, come here, I remember, she gives you a kiss, embarrasses you in front of your friends, I bought you some food, you come on, are you eating, you look skinny, etc. Why not? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with being a daddy's girl, You're a grown woman, Abby, give me this, buy me this. Play it. Mushkila. There's nothing wrong with that, inshallah. If that's what makes your parents happy, huh? Wallahu alam.
FS Decatur AI, my wife let me force her son to masjid, what should I do?
Say the question again, please.
FSDACATUR AI, my wife let me force her son to masjid, what should I do?
My wife she says what?
My wife let me force her son to
me force her son to the masjid.
What
Okay?
should I do?
A mother who forces her son to go to the masjid is a good mother. May Allah bless her. It's a good thing. Sometimes you have to force your children to do certain things. Forcing them to go to the house of Allah is good. Alhamdulillah. You gotta go. Get off the video game, whatever, go to the masjid. Khair.
YOGTA Canada, when you believe something is true, should you acknowledge the possibility that you are wrong at the back of your mind?
We'll stop here tonight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. And with him is all success. Sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabina wa imam Muhammad. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you to everyone, all for watching, for listening, for commenting, etc. May Allah bless you all. Peace and blessings to all the Hadith disciples, New York City and worldwide. Don't forget that we have a full range of services that we provide on HadithDiscipleshop.com. Counseling, teaching, mentoring, tutoring, marriage, nikah services, etc. Inshallah ta'ala, if your question doesn't get answered, if you want your question answered in a certain period of time, if you have a specific need, etc., you can contact us. And thank you to everyone who donates and who contributes. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who allow these classes and these lectures and these fa'idas and these things to be available and to be free for the people. Wallahu ta'ala alam.